Cheers.
Cheers. Well,
Where did this go?
it's that time again.
I'm Annie,
And I'm Susan.
and this is Two Friends, One Chat.
Just one chat. Just one.
Just
After one we already had before we recorded.
Just one chat, but like several one chats, no big deal.
Several one chats in a row. I love this.
Like a couple seasons of one chats, just a couple.
3, can you believe it? 3 seasons of us chatting and people listening. It's crazy.
It's so exciting. It's really exciting. And I just, for our listeners, we got to spend like the first time, like the first part of today, not recording and strategizing for what we're going to be doing next with the podcast. And, this has been a really interesting adjustment year. Obviously, I've moved across the country, so we're trying to put that together, and my studio is almost set up. And of course, for listeners, we also both have very different professional jobs outside of this. And so we're kind of seeing how those correlate, and I'm getting very excited for our future.
Yeah,
very excited, because I think we're going to start doing some planning. Of course, the goal has always been to do video.
yes.
And we're not quite there yet, but we are wiring electricity to my studio right now in the house. So great future things are coming.
But also so glad we're not doing video right now based on our looks.
Oh boy, guys.
We are both straight out of bed.
Straight out of bed, and it's great. I've got it's very cold here. We are in Cincinnati. It is freezing. And so I have this amazing, very warm, long sleeve, way too big for me jammy shirt. And I love it.
Yes.
Comfort level, 10 of 10.
I promise we will slightly step up our game when we start truly posting video.
Oh, I will commit to that as well, because I look I'm just having a great time.
Just slightly. I'm not promising a whole bunch, but like I promise I'll shower and put real clothes on.
I'm not sure I can promise a shower, but I can promise that I will brush my hair. That's a commitment to listeners I will make today.
I'll take it. Oh man.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
That's when we get the best chats. When we're in our just like element of
hashtag throwback. We said when you're gonna do therapy, make sure you're comfortable.
Oh, snap, you're right. You do gotta be comfortable.
Getting your cozies, feel good. The last thing you need to be thinking about is like a crinkly tag rubbing up against you.
Higher tags ever created.
Why?
Yeah. More and more, they're just printing it on the shirt, and God bless them. God bless them.
Yes, that's a revolution I'm here for. Oh boy. Yeah, 100%. Do you know what else I've started to understand clothing-wise that I have never understood before? I didn't get why people wore vests.
Okay.
Like the kind of vest like you put over, it's like a jacket with no arms.
Oh, like the puffy vests?
Yeah, like you can get a puffy or like not puffy, but like they're insulated.
Yeah.
I never understood that until we lived here, because to me, I'm like, why would you put a coat on with no arms?
Right. But just put the full coat. Just commit.
Here's the thing. They're not meant for outside. They're meant for inside.
Oh.
And I didn't get that until it's like here, it's like, the high is 20 degrees or something bananas like that. you wear them inside all day because it's like almost, especially in like an older house, is we're working so hard to keep it warm in here. Eventually, we're just gonna have to get like energy efficient windows because it's
Right.
like, but like also, I think at some point when it's, 2 degrees outside, it's pretty hard to keep it a nice 70 degrees in the house. At that point, I think you're just murdering the planet trying to keep it that.
Yes.
So yeah, you kind of have to. Or when you're like at a store, you can't just like take your coat off.
I
So
like coats for inside. Vests are coats for inside. Okay.
that's exactly.
I
And
like it.
yeah, my mind was sort of like, oh my, and you wear them under your coat too, right? They're just that extra layer of
Right.
like, so I have learned that lesson and I now own 2 of them. Nice long ones. They cover your bum, so they also keep your buns warm.
Look at you go.
Thank you, Columbia Sportswear. You should sponsor us because we're cool.
And we like vests.
I do, man, I do. I have learned the lesson of vests.
I love it.
Oh boy.
I wonder
And
if they kind of feel do they feel kind of like a hug?
yeah,
Do you know,
yeah,
is there kind of
yeah.
that? I'm thinking kind of like people that use like weighted blankets. I wonder if a vest has a similar
Ooh.
vibe of like a little security.
Ooh, I could definitely see that. I think too, for me, the place I get cold the quickest and is weirdly hard to warm up is like my upper shoulder back area.
Ooh.
And they like just toast that right in. It's really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm thinking
loving
I might have
this.
to go find mine and put it on because it's great. It's really great. It does tend to run chilly in the basement, so I think by the time we are like doing like video broadcasting like from the studio and stuff,
Yeah.
you'll probably see my barrage. I have a cream colored vest and a black colored vest.
Ooh, the
hmm
basics.
Really needed it to go with everything.
You got to. You got to.
Oh, I am very excited though, because today we are going to be talking about what we do. We did a Depression 101. We talked about how we work with that Depression 101 in our personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
We did Anxiety 101. And now we get to kind of talk about how we work to combat that and kind of really treat it in our own lives.
Right. Now that we've spent the time to recognize those signs in our lives and kind of label them, now what do we do? What do we do with that?
Mm-hmm. 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 Which
Ugh.
I'm actually pretty excited to talk about because I think you and I have done so much work on our own personal anxieties. Like I know like
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think our previous episodes of helping recognize it really is to me the first step, right? Whether you can name it exactly what it is or not, the fact that you're recognizing these things going on and saying, whoa, this is not feeling right, or I'm not liking this, recognizing that something feels off to me is kind of step one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say too, because I think we're going to talk about how we've really tailored it to our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have always, of course, encouraged listeners if Depression 101 or Anxiety 101 really resonated with you, to do kind of reach out to start that finding your therapist process.
Yep.
'Cause these are going to be things that worked for us and like continue to work for us and how we've sort of evolved to keep our brain health. Um, but that can be a hard thing. So as we always do, find your therapist, find a person that you are ready to kind of start this process with. And of course, oh please use what we've learned. If it
Yeah.
resonates with you, my goodness, take that
Yes.
tool. Yes.
So while you're making your primary care appointment, while you're finding a therapist, like please be doing all of those things as well. If
Yeah.
if depression or anxiety episodes like Annie said, hit you
Yeah.
in a certain way, start that process, and then you can maybe try some of
Yeah.
these other things that we've tried for you.
Okay, okay. I will start. Okay. One of I think the first things that I do when I can feel my anxiety creeping in. Like, and we've talked about like I'm pretty bodily aware.
Woo! Yeah,
Um
she is.
yeah, and when I get those hashtag throwbacks to my mental health measures and I can feel it. I know anxiety's coming in for a party that they were not invited to, FYI. My one of my primary things is I will see and feel my intrusive thoughts will escalate. We kind of
Hmm.
talked about that. One of the ways I have found very helpful relief, and this only works with a very trusted group of people. So, is I am able to talk through those intrusive thoughts and self-reflect on how ridiculous they sound. That has been huge because I don't sit in them any longer. And
Yes.
then, of course, if you sit in them, for me, that becomes a shame spiral. I ruminate, I obsess, hashtag throwback. We've been really open and honest about that. Is like everyone I love is gonna die. Like
Hmm.
these very intrusive really quite aggressive internal thoughts.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the most, and it took me a long time to trust people enough, and to build that like secure attachment, which is
Right.
is a big deal. Once I had that secure attachment, um, and someone that I knew wouldn't be like, because one of the other concerns that pops into my mind of reasons why I shouldn't talk to people about these internal thoughts is I don't want to burden them with them,
Mm. Right. Right.
and so I had to learn to like rely on other people to have that healthy trust, and then talk through them. And that one was a win for me. Like that
That's
one was
huge.
so helpful for stopping that anxiety spiral and circle. So that's my first tip and tool that I want to share with the group.
I love that one. And it's so true. It's got to be the right person. You couldn't
Yes.
just go tell anybody
Yeah.
about your kind of spirals because they might not handle them well for themselves and they could obviously not help you get out of that. You talk to the wrong person, they're just going to spiral with you and now we're all in trouble. So,
It's so true. I think that's a really good point. That's why I really want people to start this journey with a professional, because a
yeah,
professional, that's a person that will be able to hold that shame
hold all
spiral,
that. Yes.
intrusive thoughts, and then maybe work strategically to build kind of like hashtag throwback to those social circles, to build a social circle set where you have that kind of built in.
Mhm.
Because it's to me, it's really important because it's like, I mean, anytime those big spirally thoughts come in, I'm like, oh, you know what? I know I can talk to Aaron about it and tell him
Right.
how, like, so it's so pivotal to have those people and those relationships in your life. But just like you said, you got to make sure it's the right person. It's
Yeah.
why some of building like your mental health plan is pretty like strategic, right? Like it's intentional. It's
Mhm.
so start for sure. Start with a profesh. And then
Yes, please.
yeah, and that is the tip and tool that I love probably right now. Okay.
I think one of mine would be physical activity. And I think
Nice.
that's kind of a two things I'm thinking about it. One, I think just regular, consistent physical activity helps in general with mood. But I
Yes.
also think that there are times when I'm in anxiety or depression, and just getting up and going and moving, even as like a tool in the moment for anxiety and depression, I think can be helpful. As well as just kind of that consistent everyday movement as well. But
Yeah.
kind of physically getting that energy, because it's all energy, everything's energy, right?
Yeah.
So all that energy that's going on in our poor little brains and hearts,
Yeah.
physically being able to get rid of some of that,
Nice.
I think is definitely an action step for me. And I notice my anxiety and or depression, whichever cycle I'm in, is definitely worse when I'm not moving, consistently, for sure.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I 100% concur. I think too, like tagging onto that physical activity is so becomes such a primary self-care for myself, especially when you really touched on the consistency.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would tag onto that. It becomes like the ultimate self-care when it's consistent and team oriented. I really love I love team sports and
Yeah.
that's my next step is to find like an indoor soccer team out here because it's like I don't even my body doesn't even register that it's exercise when it's a sport with a team. I'm just loving it. Like just
Yeah.
mm,
And for me, especially right now with all the stuff going on with my knee, like I can't do true intense exercise right now, but
yeah,
like for me, I like to label it physical activity, just meaning like maybe it's I'm just taking the dog for a walk,
yeah.
or I can't do that here. So we go out and we throw the ball together. So like
Mm,
I'm not even doing a ton of physical activity, but you're outside and there's movement and it's a different energy, and it's like a reset. I don't even know that it like gets rid of anything, right? It just feels like I get a little pause and reset
yes.
with whatever's going on. So I have a kind of a different energy and mindset to come at it with afterwards.
I love that. I do think there is, and I think there's quite a bit of research on this as well. There is something about grounding yourself outdoors. Like there is I'm gonna say it's magical. There's something magical.
I feel like 10-year-old me was meant to do this. I cannot tell you how many times growing up I would just go lay on the driveway.
Really?
Yeah. When it was warm outside,
Yeah.
not just for
Oh,
fun when
yeah.
it's cold. I literally have neighbors stop and be like, "Are you okay?" And it's like I just needed to lay on the ground. And there are still times I
Yes.
think when I truly have really spiraled, or I'm whether it's true depression or anxiety, or maybe it's situational and it's deserved
Yeah.
crying and grief and sadness.
Yeah.
There is something about laying on the ground that is calming and centering to me.
Yes.
You got to be all the way on the ground. You don't have to be in the dirt. You can be on the floor of your house, but you got to lay on the ground. Oh, I love that you said that.
I love that.
Ooh.
I love the vision of and I can almost feel it in my body because like the way that concrete, especially in the Northwest, holds heat
Yes.
is like because it doesn't truly, I mean, we get like maybe 2 or 3 weeks out of the year where it's really hot, but mostly, it's like still cool outside, but the sun has warmed the concrete.
Yes.
That is a very magical feeling. Like I can just feel it. And uh, oh yeah, I love that.
Oh,
It's
grounding.
making me like it's like I wish I had a concrete driveway, because I'm like, how could I replicate that? Because I'm sure that there's a similar feeling here, although I think the summers get quite a bit warmer. So I
Yeah.
think, but I can feel like the cool breeze, you saying that, and just laying on the wonderful concrete and it's warming
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
sounds magical.
I do truly believe there is something about physically grounding yourself. I
Yeah.
get like some people who like maybe you got to take your shoes and socks off and really feel the ground on your feet or something. I mean, I think there's lots of ways to
Yeah,
physically ground yourself in nature for sure.
that's like doing the Die Hard. I don't know for all of our listeners. Die
What?
Hard is, of course, a wonderful Christmas movie. Okay. But that's what he says at the beginning of the movie. He's a nervous flyer and he's flying, and the guy next to him's like, you know how you know, cure nervous flying? He's like, when you get to your place, take your shoes off and put your bare feet on the carpet. And it's mindfulness basically. I mean, he's teaching him mindfulness, which is so awesome because it's like 80s movie nine awesomeness. Such a great movie. Um, but yeah, so there you go. A little sample of Die Hard for you.
Well,
Yeah.
if Die Hard says so,
It's gospel truth,
then
man.
there you go. Done and done, everybody. Go take your shoes off. Stand outside.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Oh, that's amazing.
Uh,
God, that movie's so great.
Annie,
Um,
how do you feel about mindfulness as an action step for anxiety or depression?
oh, well, you know I love it, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I do. Okay, but I will say that I usually have to talk through the struggle first, and
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, and then I can get to. It's not something I can just be like, oh, I'm really stressed out and have intrusive thoughts. I'm gonna go do mindfulness. That will cause the spiral. So I have to have some precursor steps before mindfulness is effective. I will say in the moment breathing, I can do some deep breathing. Oh, I learned a deep
Right.
breathing that I really like. I tried a sound bath. Yeah.
What?
Ha I think I need to try it a couple more times because I did it with a large group and there was like it didn't work because there was always somebody like snoring or doing something that was like very distracting.
Oh,
Have you ever done a sound bath?
no.
Oh, I did. It was at a conference and they had like a breakout room. I was like, oh, I've always wanted to try this, you know? And it's very cool. Like the science of it is super cool. But there's these like large crystal bowls and you know when you were a kid and you would like lick your finger and on the top of crystal glasses
Yes,
it's like that, but not a terrible noise, a
but
beautiful
nicer. Okay.
And I imagine that this would, if I was struggling with anxiety, I'm not sure it would quite help in the moment. But it would be, I think it's one of those things more, if you practice it, probably has like long-term care effects of,
Yeah.
um, so that was really quite interesting. Um, and I imagine again, if it's a smaller group, there was like people fell asleep and they were snoring and somebody kept trying to open and close the door and
Oh, okay.
didn't it didn't work. Um, but I could see it being cool, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Sorry, I digress. I'm not even talking about in the
Well, I
moment.
know. I think sound bath is mindfulness.
I mean, maybe the tip that I learned from it that really stuck with me was getting kind of quote unquote ready to do the mindfulness exercise was a breathing exercise where you breathe in and then you take an extra little breath because as you work during the day, especially if you're pretty stationary,
Mm-hmm.
like the parts of your lungs that are accepting oxygen will kind of like deflate out of
Yeah.
like, lack of use, you know?
Yep.
And so you breathe, you take your deep breath in, pause, and then you take that second breath to kind of reactivate those pieces. And then you hold for like 2, 3 seconds and you breathe out really slow. And that will have neurological effects because it's telling your body to relax too. Because once, you know, the way we tell our bodies to relax is like our chest starts to like sink in, right? So if you overinflate it, it's going to sink in. It's kind of like tricking your brain,
Yeah.
right? And within like 30 seconds, you can feel the neurological effects of it, which I love that. I And I love the way she like explained it and gave us the science behind it while we were doing it.
Yeah.
So that one is one in the moment I have actually put in my repertoire of like when things are, I'm getting anxious, I'm struggling. I can do that one and you can do it anywhere at any time. No one's,
Annie,
yeah.
welcome to the world of ALS. This is breath stacking. We tell
Tell me,
people to do it all the time.
tell me breath
But
stacking.
more,
What is this?
we recommend it more intensely, stacking like 3, 4, 5 full breaths if you can on top of each other,
Okay.
just because those muscles may or may not be working as well for people with
Oh,
ALS. So and we give them ambu bags to like support really getting that breath in to totally inflate the lungs
wait,
since
wait,
the
wait, wait.
muscles aren't doing the job anymore.
Well, you gotta explain what is an ambu bag?
Oh, sorry.
Tell me everything. Yeah.
And you know when you see on medical shows and they're pumping the bag to keep people breathing?
Oh, like it's in their mouth and they're doing that bag
Right,
thing?
and then the bag, right. So
Okay,
that
yeah.
bag is called an ambu bag.
Oh,
Right. So we give people that with the thing they hold in their mouth, and we tell them to stack 4 to 5 breaths on top of each other to
okay.
totally inflate their lungs. One, that's good for your lungs if your muscles aren't doing it. But I
Yeah.
think, like you're saying, it just physically, right? It opens us back up again. And
Yes.
there's all these good effects of that. So, and people, I would tell you, like, obviously, I don't have ALS, but I've tried breast stacking. I think all of us would be amazed at like
Dude, it's awesome.
how much we are not using our lungs. Like, truly breast stacking, like, honestly, when I started doing it, it hurt. I was like so
Yep.
tight.
Yep.
So, everyone should breast stack. And I think that's a great idea around mindfulness, too. I
Yeah.
was just doing it for fun to see what people were doing, but I hadn't thought about it around kind of the mindfulness aspect as well.
Yeah, it's like tricking your body into being like relaxed. Isn't that cool?
I love this.
I love this too. Okay, so now for clarity, for me, you don't try breath stacking with an ambu bag, right? That's for the
Right.
person that okay, that has the
Right.
ALS. Got
Because
it.
my muscles are fine. So they'll let me do it.
Gotcha.
I can get that much breath in on my own. If
Yep.
for the people with ALS whose respiratory muscles maybe aren't working as well, they might need that extra support of the bag. And we usually recommend that they are in control of the bag if they physically can be.
Yeah.
Um, there's also another machine called a cough assist that you can set for breast stacking. So I mean, there's lots
Yeah.
if you have ALS or other issues, there's medically ways to do it.
Yeah.
But as the rest of us without ALS, just listening to this podcast, you can just stack your
Okay.
breaths on top of themselves. Yeah.
Can you walk me through what that looks like for not using any of like devices, how
Yeah.
you personally breath stack?
Oh yeah. So similar to you take a breath and hold it,
Okay.
then you take another breath and hold it, then you take another breath and hold it.
Oh,
It's
nice.
meant, and I think, see, like I got to 3 and I was already like starting to hurt because I
Yeah.
haven't done breath stacking in a while. They'd usually recommend like 4 to 5 breaths and
Okay.
then you let it out and then you do that like 4 to 5 times in a
Love that.
session.
Love it.
But they're as big and full of breaths as you can get them to
So you
be.
so you take a breath,
Yep.
that do not exhale, then take another
Take another
breath,
one.
do not exhale, and that's how you're kind of layering those stat.
So
I
you're
love this.
stacking them on top of each other to totally inflate your lungs and get all of that stuff
Love
going
this.
and awake and open. But
Do
you'll
you,
feel it in your muscles because we are not good breathers.
yeah. When you exhale, is there a preference through like nose or mouth?
No.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna try this like open breath stacking. I've been doing like the double and have loved it. I had not thought of like taking it to the limit and seeing like,
Leave it to Susan to take it to the max. I am a little bit all or nothing.
I love this. I think and I love trying a new tool because I have truly felt the positive effects of the I have not called it breath stacking, but now I will. but of a breathing exercise that I felt, I was like, oh, I felt like this has really helped me in the moment.
Yeah.
So
Breathing
I'm
is good.
definitely,
We don't recognize how bad we are at breathing and
yeah,
how important it is. I think all of us can use, and I don't even think it has to be these like close your eyes mindfulness breathing. I think we all
yeah,
just need to pay better attention.
yeah,
And sometimes it really is stopping and taking one deep breath,
yeah, that's right.
especially I think around anxiety for me. Sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, Susan, just stop. You're
Yeah,
holding your breath. Just breathe.
yeah.
Just breathe. We'll get through it.
There is such a surprising awareness once you like have spent time working in your mental health, especially if you um are of our generation and weren't given tools, right? Like tools were just not a huge part of our upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship between breathing and anxiety, like between like internal anxiety thoughts and
Yes.
how oxygen is getting to your brain and the direct correlation seems it's very sweet because I think for the younger generation, a lot of them are like, duh,
Yeah.
but like for our
It's true.
generation, we were like,
Huh?
what? That's nuts. No, that can't be right. Like, so I think there's a lot to be said about we weren't trained to be good breathers, and it is so deeply correlated. Like we're all connected,
Yep.
and so I really agree with that. And I think good mindfulness or mindfulness, I think most importantly, mindfulness that works for you
Yes.
is really important because kind of to your, I think maybe you were alluding to this a little bit is when you are in the throes of anxiety, there's nothing worse than someone being like, you should practice mindfulness. Okay,
I'm gonna
bitch.
mindfully punch you in the face.
That's right. I will mindfully punch your face right now.
No, and I do, and we had an episode on mindfulness versus meditation, right? And I do
Yeah.
prefer the term mindfulness because I think it's a little more all-encompassing.
Yeah.
Because if someone had said that to me before, I would have said, I want to punch you in the face and I
Love
hope you
that.
stub your toe. But now I've done enough work to know that active mindfulness works for me. So,
Yeah.
like doing a puzzle or doing something physical with my
Love that.
hands, like the coloring that people do, that I truly think that all is considered mindfulness, but
Yeah.
I need that action piece
Hmm.
or it doesn't work. If you tell me to sit quietly, nope, that will not work for me. I will pass on that. It will actually make me worse. So
Yeah.
finding the right mindfulness activity that works for you,
Yeah.
I think is important. But mindfulness in general, I think is a great action step. You just got to find the right one.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I really identify with that. And I think it's why I'm hopeful that, and that our listeners are listening to this, are feeling inspired to start that journey about what works for them because it is exactly what you said. The wrong mindfulness or the wrong having someone be like, "Ooh, you need to be more mindful," will have that visceral reaction,
Oh,
especially if you're in fight or flight. It makes me so frustrated to even think about that. But I think that is how a lot of our society seems to apply mental health is like we like to tell people to go fix it, like
mm-hmm.
just go do this mindfulness or just go do self-care and you'll be fine. You're like, well, that's not helpful.
That's thanks, but no thanks.
I hate you. No, I hate you. So, um, I love that. Okay, I'm trying to think of talking it out, practicing mindfulness are probably my or like in the moment practice getting like those breathing exercises going
Mm-hmm.
are two of the things that I think have been my greatest saving grace or lifeline with
Mm,
anxiety.
yeah.
Trying to think if there's like a third one that I really rely on. I think if I'm prioritizing my skills a lot, most of the other ones are really preventative.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Rather
Mhm.
than in the moment, I'm
Mhm.
having anxiety.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the probably the third biggest one is just taking that mental note of if I have to talk through anxiety, like it's getting that bad,
Yeah.
or if I have to like start employing a lot of breathing, you know, in the moment exercises, that's the give and tell that my mental health measures are often, I got to start looking at
Mm-hmm.
instituting other things into the plan to prevent. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think those are my two immediate go-tos.
Yeah. I think, and I feel like I said, I definitely cycle between anxiety and depression, but I feel like forced to choose, I'm in depression more than anxiety, or at least like
Yeah.
was growing up for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, one of my go-to action steps with sort of I don't like the word normal, but sort of everyday depression, right? Because there are people that have major depressive episodes, right? I'm not saying the things I do are going to work for those,
Yeah.
but just in kind of normal everyday depression, I think one of my action steps is really making myself feel the feels, like
Mm,
just cry. Like it's okay. I think I've
yeah.
spent so much of my life being depressed, but not thinking I can or I can't show it or I've got to be the strong one. So I know for me sometimes it's like just go put that sad movie on and like
Yes.
let it out. It's not helping you to hold it in or put Matchbox 20 on. Like
Yes.
scream it out in the car, right? Do what you got to do. Don't like shove it and ignore it. Just let it out and then usually I will feel much better afterwards.
I heard the coolest thing. It was a brain scientist, and he was talking about how if you're sad and you put on a sad song, it releases the same comforting chemicals in your brain as like you breastfeeding. Like you
That
being
intently. Oh,
yes, like when you're like breast like the same things that are released when you're breastfeeding from your mother. So not you being the mom. I'm
right.
I didn't get that far into the thing. So maybe that is true, but that's not what they were talking about in this section. But as you like receiving that comfort from your mother and like not just comfort, like comfort and nutrients and survival, like
Yes.
there's so much attached to
Yeah.
that. And I was like, that makes so much sense because, I know Matchbox 20 is your go-to. My go-to if I'm really sad, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black,
Oh,
freaking such a good album. So
mm.
good. And when I am sad, I listen to that album and it's like I feel like she had great emotion and sadness in her voice, but I could like feel it like
Yes.
help me process that sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Music is magical.
Yeah. I think a
Yeah.
lot of times we think, well, I'm already sad, so why would I want to be sadder? But it's that, yeah, it's that like safe space to release it
Yeah.
is to me so powerful and helpful.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, if you're in like a major depressive episode, like I'm not saying being sad all day and crying all day is going to necessarily be helpful long term.
Yeah.
You probably
Good.
need some other tools,
Yep.
um, maybe some meds, whatever it is that we
Yeah.
can get to help you not be sad all day. But
Yeah.
if you're feeling off and a sad movie helps, and then you're like better the next day, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've hit on a really good point because 10 years ago my tools for anxiety would have looked really different because like
Yes.
I would have been saying like cuz my anxiety was really like running my life, right?
Yeah.
So I would have said my meds, by the way, amazing, right? Those and so I'm really talking about how I treat anxiety that I've now recognized and lived with for the predominance of my life
Right.
and have tamed back with some really intense therapy and intense meds. So I'm really talking about day to day, not massive crisis. And
Right.
I think that's a really good distinction to make and why it's so important. And I know I say this a million times and I'll say it again, to really work this plan out with a professional because
Mm-hmm.
you may need bigger tools to get to kind of to a
Yes.
point where, it's really more about weekly, daily, monthly management now at this point. And like, I can
Yeah.
tell you pretty much where my hormones are, depending on how much anxiety just all the fun stuff that we get to do.
Oh, hormones. Hmm.
Rude. That's what I'm just gonna say. Rude.
They are rude.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
So
rude.
rude. Sheesh. I just
And
want to be like, get a life, like get your own life, hormones.
get your
Like,
own life.
get your
Yes.
own life. Go do your own thing and leave me alone.
Go ruin someone else's life.
I wouldn't even want to put it on someone else. So I'm like, get your own. Go get your own and leave us alone.
Leave me alone, dang it. Oh, I will say some of the things that I love that's happening is like in some one of the social media trends I'm loving is that they're now starting to talk about the phases of like your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the little memes and shorts coming out of it are making me giggle so much because it's like,
Yes.
the one phase you're like, oh my gosh, my husband's so hot, like my partner's so amazing, like I just love them. And then like the next phase is like, why are they chewing so loud?
Yeah. I
And I'm like, that's so
I hate
accurate.
your face.
I hate your face. Why is your face looking at me like that? Why do you keep touching me? God damn it. And I'm just like, that is so relatable because it doesn't change your love for that person, right?
Oh.
No, love them.
Well,
That's
and that
real.
honestly, I mean, that is a good action step too, is recognizing maybe these feelings are related to, like, I know that day that I call my mom and cry for an hour, I
No.
guarantee you my period's going to start in 2 days. Like, I know it now. It took me way too long to recognize it, but like, but even so, if let's say, you do have ovaries and the hormones that come with those,
Oh yeah.
like, but I think we can all, no matter what gender you were born as or feel you are, like, I think we can all recognize cycles in our
Yeah.
lives or
Yep.
times of year, right?
Yep.
Maybe so recognizing like, oh man, this anniversary of this thing is coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably why I'm feeling a little more A or B than normal.
Yeah.
So I think that too can be an action step, especially, I don't, that's hard to do if you're new to anxiety and depression for sure.
Yeah.
That's something that comes with doing your work, is being
Yeah.
able to quickly recognize what's around that feeling and why it might be coming up. And
Yeah.
I don't know, sometimes just being able to label it,
Yeah.
I think, can calm it way down. Like, oh, it's the anniversary of blank. That is why I'm in such a crappy mood.
Yeah.
And it's like this little bit of acceptance around it, which I think calms it down or lets you process it a lot faster.
Oh my gosh, I agree. Or like I have to hang out with this person that spent their life abusing me. You know,
Right.
why is the week leading up to it and the week after I'm such a mess?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But you know what's so interesting to you, and you're right. If you're beginning stages of like this was going to be super hard to do, but the longer you do it, the more time you spend with like uh good reflective people in your life too, like um and when you start talking through, I think this is why the talking through has been so helpful, why having
Yes.
people in my life that I have positive attachment to have been so helpful. Like the other day I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't I don't know. I think I was like apologizing. Like, I don't know why I'm so stressed out right now and I can't like really get like my things right and blah blah
Mm.
blah. And Aaron was like, "Oh, I know why. It's because you had to talk to that person." I was like,
Oh.
"Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that actually makes a ton of sense." And it's just like what you said, like super relieving. I was like, "Oh, you're totally right." Like,
Yes.
and it wasn't that I was stupid. It wasn't that I was like losing my mind. It wasn't that it was totally wrapped in like to traumatic experiences and just so helpful because I was like, "Oh." And it's exactly what you said. It can tone it way down.
Yeah.
Have that realization. So, and I'm super excited because I think for listeners, it's such a healing, wonderful process to be able to kind of reflect and step outside of that and really almost take the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
So I really encourage you guys, like, do what you need to do, find a professional and start really building that, because it's a really lovely place to be on the other side of that.
Mm. It 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 so is, and it's so hard
Yeah.
to, like, I feel like I never quite do it justice, because it really is amazing on the other side. It's not perfect, it's still work,
Oh,
right? We still have to do our work
absolutely.
all the time. Being on the other side of mental health doesn't mean you never have anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
It just means it's less often, it's less intense, it's handled a lot differently and easier and quicker, and
Yeah.
um it is just so much better over here. But it does take work. There's not a magical pill that gets you over here. There's a magical pill that helps get you over here,
Certainly
but
helped me.
they help, but you still got to do your work with them.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. But I think the encouraging thing is, like, the work is manageable and
Yeah.
there are ways to make the work manageable. And this comes from, like, I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but I have always enjoyed work, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I think when I hear it's work, I don't hear a negative lens, but I imagine that may sound negative for some people. And I just want to encourage you, it's doable work and it will give you like a higher self of like a higher perspective of yourself, because you will accomplish this, like, and that is really
It is,
powerful.
and it is all you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it is only you can do this with the tools and the people helping you along the
Yeah.
way. But yeah, and I would just say, whether it's these daily action steps we're talking about or you're starting therapy, all of that, like, give yourself grace and patience, because it takes time.
Yeah.
All of this takes time. Even if you're looking at these daily kind of action steps, like, some days they're going to work really well and then some days they might not. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's why we talk a lot about having all these tools, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not just a tool that you can pull out and will work every time.
Yeah.
So trying different things in different situations or times of day, or yeah, just give yourself grace and patience, and try to, try to explore a little bit with it, see
Yeah.
what works. And maybe there'll be tools that you will throw in the trash because you're like, oh, this one will never work for
Yeah.
me.
Love that. Toss
It's
it
horrible. Toss it. Just get rid of it. If you need
out.
it later, we'll build you a new one. Like,
Yep. Yep. Squish it, put it in the trash. Let's try again. I love that. I love that. It is so exciting. And I think what I hope listeners use us as a tool for is an understanding that we truly believe that you can do this. Like,
yes.
that you can do this. And if you are struggling with self-doubt,
Mm.
or I don't even need to know you to know that you can do this, because you
Right?
can do this. Yeah. Like that
Oh, it's
you
so
are incredible.
true.
Yeah. Oh, I have chills because I'm so excited for the thought that that could reach someone and really motivate them to start like their mental health journey and to feel encouraged to do so, because I know you can do it.
Yes. You can't, everybody, listen, if me and Annie can do it,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Trust me, you can do it.
You can do it. We were pretty far down that hole.
Oh, God bless us. God bless
Tell,
us.
I mean, tell me there weren't times you thought, I literally will never get out. Like, it's
Yeah.
impossible. This is my hole now. I'm going to make it as nice as I can, but this is
Yep.
where I live.
Yeah. I'm gonna nest in this hole because this
Yeah.
is what I have.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Thinking there, it is too far up to light. I'm never making it out of here. You can.
You can. And it
You can.
is so, it's such a gift to be on the other side of, like, because you're right. I mean, I will always live with a presence of anxiety in my
Yeah.
life, always.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's so manageable, and it isn't even just that it's so manageable. I feel so much more of like I am an open person now.
Yeah.
Like with the taming of anxiety came a removal of shame and blame for me. Like
Yes.
that's a very, like that's a and that has changed my ability to be in relationship with other people in a positive way. I think it's also um really put me in much more active touch with artistic production. Like,
Mm.
like it really has I feel like I've really creatively blossomed
Well, yeah,
from,
freed
yeah.
all that energy up for you to do wonderful, amazing things with.
And I am loving, and that's what I think, like our listeners, or really even if you're not listening, but when you're doing the work to really overcome like that piece of anxiety, that's what kind of is on the other end of that is like a truer version of yourself.
Mm.
And that's just a really beautiful thing. That's why I know everyone can do this.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think similarly, more on the depression side, like that living in like the never being good enough and like that other side of like truly being like, I'm like a pretty awesome person and
Oh yeah.
like really being able to like believe in yourself.
That's awesome.
It's really weird at first. I do remember the period of time that it was switching. It's weird and uncomfortable and super scary. But now it's like, no, I am going to try this thing or go for this thing cuz like I am a good person and
Fuck
I'm
yeah.
talented and I can do these things. It's amazing.
You're a talented director. So badass. That's so badass. It's awesome. It is really cool to see. Um, yeah. Yeah. And it's really neat to be able to like be friends with you and have like that reflective presence because we have grown and changed so much
So much.
and it's awesome. Like, yeah, it's really quite incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for our listeners, and of course, sharing this time and space with you guys is just really
Yeah.
incredible. Um, and I'm already looking forward to season 4. And we're not even like halfway through season 3
Yeah,
yet.
no, don't worry guys. There's still plenty of season 3, but
But I'm just excited because I think we really, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just need to share space.
And I think with this episode, for sure, if you're listening, we would love for you to share your action steps because I think the more we can all share the things that work for us, the
Yeah,
better. Because I'm
yeah,
sure there's stuff our listeners are doing that maybe we haven't done that might resonate with us or another listener. So
yeah,
I I I would really really, I mean, we always want you guys to connect with us, but on this one, even more so than
yeah,
before, I would just really love people to share the things that work for them.
yeah. I would love that. I agree because we have the opportunity to build such a great community of people working
Yes,
towards mental health. And I've learned tools by listening to other people's journeys that have really been a huge positive effect. So
100%.
if we can be a proponent of that, dang, we nailed it. That's like the whole goal of the podcast. We did it.
Done and done. No,
That's
not done.
good. Well, I think that's perfect. I think that really wraps kind of our concept thoughts on, and I'm sure we'll revisit this as well.
Oh, always.
Those are our favorite tips and tools for working through anxiety and depression. Um, and we will always bring to you our tips and tools. If you are able to rate and review, we're learning that that is a really helpful component
Yes.
to
Yeah. We're
building the
trying to
podcast.
learn about podcasting.
Yeah, which is fun when you're two social workers, but we're gonna get there. We're
We'll
gonna
get
get
there.
there. And yeah, we're gonna do it. But yes, rate and review, that's huge to help us share the podcast. Share this with your friends too. If
Yeah.
you are getting pieces from it, let's share that out. And of course, the podcast will always be brought to you free because the goal is that we are spreading those positive mental health skills
Yes.
into the universe, which I love. And two friends. j.onechat@gmail.com is
Yep.
our email. So reach out if you have any questions, thoughts, or ideas. You can
Yeah.
just visit our website too. There's links to all of our social media and email, and that is just two friends, one chat .com.
Yep.
So you can just type that in, you can see our website. And
We're
yeah.
on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All of those platforms should let you be able to leave comments. So
Mm-hmm.
share
Mm-hmm.
those action steps.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Help us out. Help us help you.
Oh, I love that. Yep. Let's spread the circle of
Let's
help.
spread it. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm
What
so
if
grateful.
your silly little action step you've never even thought of before is like someone's saving grace? You know what I mean? That's what I think, like a silly little thing
Yeah.
like a puzzle that I think is ridiculous, but it did help me. Like, what if that totally makes a difference for someone and helps them
Yeah.
on their journey and they wouldn't have even thought about it until they read it on your comment? Like,
I love that.
those things happen all the time. They
Yeah.
do. They
Yep.
do.
That's exactly right. They
Yeah.
do. Well, I have loved this chat and I'm
Yes.
very grateful for you.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
it's
back
true.
at you. And for you,
Well,
listeners, we love
yes.
you.
We love you. Take care and you
Yeah.
got this.
You got it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.